Hi there, this is Christine, demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and this is card 2 of 2 for the August Meaningful Flowers paper pumpkin. So for those who couldn't make the class or who didn't have a chance to make the class cards, I'm doing this video for you. So in your envelope, you have a little bow that I pre-made for you with the linen thread. And then we've got 2 die cut rectangles here with the, oh goodness, what's this called again? I should have checked. Contours dies, I think. They're in the annual catalog and of course online. And then if you watch the video 1 of 2, I talked about the embossing folders that were available online. So they're in the online store only. They're not in the catalog. So what I did is I cut my cardstock, so 8.5 by 5.5, scored it 4 1/4. And then I took the front and I put this through the embossing machine. So this will only work if you've got the full size embossing and cutting machine. But yeah, it's such a fun effect, right? So I'm going to fold it kind of gently along the score line. I do find that once you have put paper through the embossing machine, it's a little bit more fragile. So I want to make this fold without like completely wrecking the pattern. So I'm just going gently on the edge. All right, so now that doesn't take away the pattern that I've put on. So this is the card we're going to make. So we're going to use the stamp set from the kit with our little bow. I'm still going to work on this guy. And then on the inside, I thought it would be nice to have, you know, a plain white writing surface. So that's why I included the second die cut piece. So I'm going to stick this over here, which I think is on screen. And we're going to put these out of the way. So for this, I used the forget-me-nots. And sorry, I meant to take out my Pretty Peacock ink and I forgot, so please excuse my arm. Okay, so I've got my stamp pad. I like to use the big stamp pads when I have them, just because I find it easier to work with, but it's the same ink as what's in the spots. So I'm putting this fairly close to the top because I want to stamp the sentiment underneath it. And there we go. And then we'll put this away and get our sentiment. I love the way with this kit, they use like the forget-me-not and then the sentiment of your friendship is unforgettable. I think that just goes together so cute. Now, if you don't need one of these, you can substitute for any sentiment that'll fit, of course. And I'm stamping that at the bottom. I'm leaving a little gap so that there's space for our bow. Now, with this stamp set, one trick I'll show you is I wanted to kind of color it in a little bit. So what I did was I grabbed my Balmy Blue. Oh, wrong end. I like to use kind of the paintbrush tip. And I call this messy coloring. So I'm really not being precise, just going really quickly, not touching the edges really. And doing my flowers. On my other one, I used the light marker, whereas I'm using the dark one here, but still the same effect. And then I'm going to pull out that yellow. So I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow in the centers. There we go. And I missed the flower, so I'm going to go back and just use the light one for this one. And I will use the Granny Apple Green light. This is what I've grabbed. Excellent. So again, just kind of messy coloring, I call it. The stem is like the only tricky part because it's so narrow, and I mean it's optional. I am gonna try. It's not precise, and that is okay. Just to add a hint of color. There we go. Now, putting my marker away. So we've got our little bow. Easiest way to affix the little bow is to take one of these glue dots. Dang it. I'm going to show you what I mean with the take your pick tool because this is annoying. So I am pretty much just picking up my glue dot onto my take your picky part. And I want to make a bit of a ball with it because the bow is quite tiny, right? So you don't want glue sticking out. So I'm going to dab that on the back of my bow. And I'm just going to stick that at the base of our flowers. Now, if you find that you've got sticky bits hanging out, what I do again with my take your pick tool is I just kind of jam the glue underneath. I don't actually have any sticking out on this one, but that's what I do is I just kind of gently work it in, carefully because you don't want to stab your paper, but just gently press it in and it's all good to go. So we're going to put this on dimensionals. Using these minis that came in another kit. Either one is totally fine. Don't need a ton. I'm just doing my 4 corners and I'll put one in the center because this isn't a huge piece. Before I put this in on the card though, I'm going to put this in the card. So, I mean, you can use glue dots, you can use whatever you want on the back of this. I'm going to just put a little bit of liquid glue. Just be careful if you're using liquid glue not to go where the die cut is because it will bleed through. And I'm going to attempt to center this on the inside. There we go. And on the front, we'll just take off the back of the dimensionals and put those on. And I don't think I mentioned it, the card base is Balmy Blue that I chose. And there we go. So that's the dark, if you're curious, the dark and the light markers for the Stampin' Blends. Anyways, I hope you like this design, and if you have any questions, please let me know.